okay, and regarding the text that the user is going to see, we're gonna create that inside a label. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put my inputs inside a label. So I'm just gonna copy that, and then I'm gonna create a label. All right, and inside the label, I'm gonna paste my radio input. And just before the input and after the open tag, I'm gonna write some text there that the user can see, and I'm gonna write PayPal. All right, so this is a radio input, okay, that the user can select. Okay, so it's a bit similar to the drop-down menu, okay, because you can select only one option. So we're going to create a couple of other options that the user can select from. So I'm just going to copy paste the same code twice, okay, and the second one is going to be debit card, okay, and so it's the type is radio, name is payment. So just notice that the name of all the radio inputs are going to be the same, okay, and it's going to be payment, but the value is going to change from one to another, okay. And for this one, we're going to write debit card, and for the last one, we're going to have credit card, and the value is going to be credit card. Okay. All right. So now we've got different inputs. We've got the address, we've got the shipping method, payments method. Now let's add another input type. It's going to be to allow the user to add some comments, okay. And this time we're going to use the text area input. So the syntax is pretty easy. So first of all, let's have line break, okay, and let's use the text area tag to create a text area. Okay, so this is what we call a text area, and you can write some text in there. Okay, so we can add some attributes to our text area. So for example, we can choose the number of rows, and we can set that to 4 rows. We can also set the number of columns to 40, for example. Okay, and you can see the size is changing. Also, we can give it a, okay, let's give it a name. Okay, and let's call it comments, and an ID as well. Okay, to link it to the label, let's call it comments. Now we're going to create a label. So it's going to be just before the text area. Okay, and let's write some text inside the label, comments, and let's give it a 4 attributes and link it to the ID of our text area. All right. Okay, so now we've got our comments there. Let's create another one. So let's give the user, let's allow them to tell us whether they want to be signed up for our email updates. Okay, and also we're going to ask them if they want to save their payments details to make it easier for them if they want to pay another time. So this time we're going to use another type of inputs. Before we do that, let's add a line break. Okay, so now we're going to use checkboxes. Okay, so checkboxes, they are different from radio buttons because you can select as many as you want. Okay, although radio buttons, you're allowed to, you can select only one button. And just before we go to the checkboxes, I'm just going to explain the etymology behind radio buttons. So if you ever come across the old radios, you would have noticed that these old radios, they had a set of buttons, and each button was for a specific radio station. And if you pushed one of the buttons, all the other buttons, they were pushed out. And you can see that it's the same thing for radio buttons, because once you select one button, all the other buttons are pushed out. All right, so that's how we use the radio name. Okay, so now let's go to checkboxes. So the first one is going to allow the user to tell us whether they want to be signed up for email updates. So the syntax is input, okay, with a type checkbox. All right. And we can place this inside the label, okay, so that we can show some text for the user. All right, and right after the open tag, we can write our text there. So I'm just going to write sign me up for email updates. All right, let's have a line break and add another checkbox. I'm just going to copy paste the same code and then change the code. So this time we're gonna write securely save my payment details. Okay. All right. So we're gonna add some more attributes to the input. So this one is so you've got the type there, and let's add a name. Okay. Let's call this, for example, email updates. Okay. Let's add a name to this one as well. And this one, let's call it save payment, for example. And now you can see that the checkboxes, we can check them or uncheck them. Okay, so by default they are unchecked, but you can control that using the checked attribute. Okay, so if I add that to the first one, for example, and I said checked okay, so if you want the checkbox to be checked by default, then you just need to set check to checked. Okay, now you will see that if you refresh the page, the first one is checked. Okay, and also you can set it to unchecked, but anyway, by default they are unchecked. So we can set them both to checked if you want to. Okay, and now if refresh the page, we can see that both of them are checked by default. Okay, and finally, to finish our form, we're gonna add a submit button. So again, the syntax is input and the type is submit. Okay, and by default the text is going to be submit. Let me just add a line break before that. Okay, so by default, as we have seen earlier, the text inside the button is going to be submit, but you can change it by adding a value attribute, and you can set it to whatever you want. We can still keep it the same, submit. Okay, so we have covered different types of inputs, and we have finished now our checkout form. We're going to cover forms in detail when we go to the PHP chapter of this course, and we will see how forms work, how they are submitted, and so on. Okay.